Okay, here we go. Jumping right into it. Got one question to ask everyone. Do you honestly feel like you suck at art? Yes, I know that's a harsh word. Yes, I understand some parents would prefer that term not be used as it relates to referring to other kids or referring to themselves. But I chose that word specifically because it is so relevant and prevalent. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a comic book convention and I've had a young aspiring artist come up to me in Artist Alley and say, I suck at drawing hands and I suck at drawing faces and, whatever, guys. Here's the reality. Let me define it to you this way. Art is super, super relative. I said that in the intro. And if you've come to a point with your art where you're displeased or dissatisfied with it, trust me, there are ways around it and there are ways to get through it. So I'm going to get into the philosophy of it. And if you don't mind, I'm going to draw as I talk. Anyways, if you want to know what tools I'm using today, this little art win, I don't even know if they make these anymore. It's a super, super, super light gray. Oftentimes when I'm sketching, I like to have a little loose underdrawing. This is step one in helping you de-suckify your art. Part of it is, you're going to hear it a million and a half times. Practice, practice, practice. But another big part of it is how you construct your underdrawings and how you essentially give yourself a platform to be successful, or at least create a piece of art that you can tolerate. And so I have a blank sheet of paper here. I have no idea what I'm going to fill it with. And that's, just be creative. So I'm going to work out a shape here. Of course, this marker is a little on the dry side, so you're not going to see it much. But I can kind of see it. I'm just kind of putting some shapes down. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to select a slightly grayer marker so you guys can see it. That would help. There you go. Hopefully you can pick that up on camera. Just a basic shape, a circle. God, if I had $1 for every single time I heard someone say, well, I can't even draw a circle, or I can't even draw a straight line. Yeah, you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you learn nothing else from this series of videos, it's like things do not have to be perfect. They just got to be kind of good enough for you, which is really the bottom line. So again, I have no idea what I'm going to draw. I'm just laying out some basic shapes. I love to draw characters, so this will probably be some sort of character of some kind. We will see as it emerges. Okay. Let's see what kind of comes out. So, anyways, to avoid kind of feeling dissatisfied with your art, I mentioned sort of underdrawings. Essentially what that means is there's sort of, every drawing has kind of structure, has something that underneath it that sort of allows you to sort of add all the details to it. It's a loose gestural sketch. And when you have something like that to start off with, you give yourself the building blocks to make something great. Or at least, again, something tolerable. So I created this sort of loose underdrawing. I think it's going to be this sort of pumpkin character. We are approaching October very quickly, so I'll do something in that range, in something sort of Halloween flavored. These are my trusty Pitt artist pens. They come in black and a series of grays, and I believe they come multicolored as well. I use these all the time when rendering. They've got kind of a brush tip, as you can see, and so it allows for some thicks and thins. All right, so we're going to start rendering. Again, the important point to note here is I am not going for perfection. And what that does is it allows me to kind of be free. And I know I'm not going for perfection. And it basically gives me sort of free reign to kind of make mistakes. And I think what happens is, I think a lot of people, when they get into drawing and they're trying to kind of figure out how to make it look like your favorite artist, it's almost an unfair comparison, because that person who you admire or you're trying to emulate has been probably working on that style for perhaps decades. And if that's the case, it's unfair for you to expect from yourself to have done all the legwork that that artist has done to get them to the point where they're super proficient at their particular style. There are many, many artists out there who I admire and who I say I try to emulate, but I know for a fact that I may never perfectly capture what they do. And to be honest with you, I don't know that I want to capture what they do perfectly. I mean, I certainly, if there's a technique that they employ that I'd love to sort of take on, I definitely would sort of like, do my best to try to figure that out. But the reality is, I don't have the life experience, I don't have the amount of practice that they put into sort of mastering their particular style. So if you feel like when you render something it's unsuccessful as it relates to another person's art, that's unfair even to yourself. So just bear that in mind. Ultimately you're going to want to do you anyways. So if that's the case, then only use that other person's style as a sort of a starting point. By that I mean, only use their style as kind of like in a place for you to sort of say, all right, well, I want to render in like a really thick and thin line style. The artist that I admire kind of does that. So I am going to try and do that as well. Okay? And so if you choose to do that, then you will give yourself the opening, the opportunity to not be so harsh and so I guess basically mean to yourself. The world is going to be mean for a lot of people, and there's no reason for you to do it to yourself. I think that's the bottom line I would have for you guys. And the truth is, again, it is all relative. Art is all relative. So if you feel like you are super unsuccessful at rendering, the key to getting over that is realizing, who are you trying to impress? It's okay to have a high standard for yourself. It's probably the best way to grow, to be self-critical. So I'm not saying, lose the critical eye, but what I am saying is attempt to figure out a way to find a happy medium, I guess is what I'm saying. If you can find yourself a happy medium and realize that what you do is good enough and can get better with loads of practice, then you will be so much happier. Figuring out, all right, yes, I am not, if you're a painter, I'm not Alex Ross, and however, what I do is still beautiful, to me, and probably people in your family, and if you're an art student, there'll be people in your class. That brings me to another good point. If you're in art school and you're the type of person who you look at, your fellow classmates, and in every class there's always a person who seems to kind of have it. They've got it kind of figured out. It's the nature of thing. It's like, in sports, it's the same way. There's always the kid on the field who's the biggest, fastest, strongest. Same thing goes for the arts, and same thing goes for anything in writing or in music and in dance. There's going to be people who are innately more, it would appear more talented. But the fact is, if you work super hard, you know, you can establish, at the very least, establish your own style. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of what makes art really interesting is the style. It's when you lay a ink line down or a brush stroke down. It's what your mind tells you is the thing, you know. And you know, I'm never afraid of that. You know, whenever I render something, one thing I don't render it with is fear. And if you don't render with fear, then you'll find that you'll be so much more successful at capturing what you're going for, if that makes any sense at all. So I am going to just apply a little darker line. Again, stylistic choice. You know, it's probably something I picked up, you know, many years ago. You know, I grew up reading comic books, so you know, when you grow up reading comic books, what often happens is you kind of adapt to this sort of the comic book style. And I'm actually a guest lecturer at local university, and fellow professore Zach gave a presentation talking about character design, and in that presentation he had discussed, and it's something that never really, I'll be honest with you, never really occurred to me, but it's a production thing. That's why art used to have all this thick line with all this sort of heavy black. It was probably, you think about the screens that they used to have back in the day. They weren't these, you know, super high def, you know, 1080p, or you know, this 4K. You know, that really didn't exist. You know, back in the day, you had these really, really tiny screens. You know, so if you stop and think about it, if you're working off these tiny screens, the fact is you're not going to have you know, a level of you know, fine line that you can see. Even when you go to the movies, it was probably, or when you produced you know, when you produced cartoons, for instance, you notice how the older cartoons have that sort of thick, you know, thick line that sort of kind of binds the shape. You know, something I've talked about in previous videos. Oh, by the way, thank you guys all for watching the previous videos. I appreciate the love I've been getting, you know, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, and even I love the comments when I receive comments in the you know, in the comment section of Facebook. It's pretty cool. I'm really digging getting those comments. And you know, again, I definitely encourage you to, you know, say and basically reflect all of your thoughts and sentiments, and we will kind of work this stuff out together. All right. Hopefully this character's starting to take shape. Again, I had no agenda. I was just kind of drawing something for fun. As you can see, I've kind of converted over to, it's just basically a thicker version of that earlier, the black marker that I kind of, the thinner line. This is just a thicker version of it. Brush pen, brush marker. It is not India ink, so it's not permanent, but it'll do the trick. Okay. So there's that much of it. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna grab another thick one. Same deal, just a different gray, and it's actually a little darker than I was hoping. Let me see if I can find a slightly. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'll just go with this one. Yeah, and so anyways, where was I? Oh, talking about not sucking, or at least not perceiving what you do as poor art or bad art. I'm not sure I'm making it as clear as I can in terms of like what is considered good art. Again, eye of the beholder, of course. But there are certain ways of being more successful. There's certain pieces that you make an attempt at something and it's not very successful. That does happen. I mean, let's be real. That is, you know, there are sometimes you'll lay something down and it's not as appealing, I guess is what I'm going for. There are certain images and certain shapes and things arranged in such a way that it's just not as pleasing. But here's the good news: you can learn a way around that. I'm going to certainly do my best with these videos to try to find ways to help you kind of see what shapes kind of work the best, and what sort of techniques work the best, and what sort of approaches to drawing work the best. At least the ones that I feel, work the best. And if that helps you along the way, great. And also, if you feel like it doesn't help you, and there's something you want for me to be clearer on, I can certainly do that for you. So, speaking of technique, let me get into this. So all I'm doing is I'm trying to highlight this sort of smoke that's coming out of this little monster pumpkin. Again, in honor of Halloween, which will be at the end of next month. It's still September. I'm never quite sure when people watch these. I know that I like to watch when my favorite videos. I like to watch them the week they get released. So if you guys click on that little bell icon, obviously once you've subscribed, you will definitely get a notification, and that's what I love to have. I love to get the notifications when a new video has been uploaded. Also too, I'm curious, leave in the notes, or should I say in the comments. I'd be curious to hear some of your favorite, or get a sense of who some of your favorite artists are that you like to check out on YouTube. I've got some of mine, and I can certainly share them with you guys. People that I find to be really inspiring. I would definitely, I would certainly share those with you. And but I'm curious to see who you guys watch. I know there are some very popular ones. There's people with literally hundreds of thousands of viewers and hundreds of thousands of views per video. So I'm really curious to see who you guys. Maybe you'll enlighten me to someone who I never even heard of. And it'd be kind of cool for me to kind of add them to my my pool of interesting artists. So anyways, back to the art. So really all I'm doing is just, I've kind of identified, well, at least I've sort of identified the light source is, kind of right here where the kind of coming out of the mouth there. I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of define that area where it is illuminated. So I'm just kind of filling that all in, leaving some areas free and clear. And then alright, almost done. Okay, just really making that work. And last and final touches. These little Presto correction pens. Put the cap back on, give it a little shake, kind of bring down the white. Alright. And I love these guys. They lay down like a nice big field of white. notice. Yeah, these guys are great for that. And they're it's basically just whiteout. I mean, I think obviously they're not necessarily designed for art. I don't believe. I know a ton of artists use them in their process, but you know, the reality is I think they're basically designed to be and my daughter's in the room. They're designed. Do you want to say hello? That's my daughter. That's the sketchyGOichie girl you hear in the intro. It's my daughter Aria. She likes to draw too. You like to draw too, right, baby? Yes. Baby, you gotta say it. You like to do rainbows? Yeah. Okay, so the next drawing will be rainbows in honor of my daughter Aria Lee. So anyway, so this is I'm just putting on this white to just kind of define some shapes, particularly in the eyes. Just some random areas of white, just almost like this like flecks of energy coming off of it. As a matter of fact, draw a little more white in the mouth here just to kind of define that a bit more. This is like a little pumpkin guy. I'll show you when I'm done, baby. Okay. Like it's a Halloween. Yeah, that's right, for Halloween. She's 4. And she is so looking forward to Halloween.
I'm so excited. I'm really waiting till it's Halloween because I'm so excited my costume is really going to be Wednesday.
That's right. You're going to be Wednesday for Halloween, huh? That's okay. So what do you think of this pumpkin guy? You like it? Alright, so biggest part of not sucking at art is kind of knowing when you're done. And so I am done. This is, we'll sign that guy. 19. Alright, so all of that's still wet, so I'm not going to monkey around with it. Anyways, so this is my little pumpkin sketch. I think it's just having fun, and that, I guess basically that's the bottom line. So that's why whenever I sign off these videos with "Live Your Moment," that's what I mean. All right. So anyways, hopefully you guys got a kick out of this. Hopefully you kind of get where I'm going. We're gonna do a bunch of different drawings along this series. Please feel free to leave comments. Anything you say is important, and it kind of helps the narrative, and it helps the conversation. And I want to get everybody to the point where they're like, you know what? I do what I do. I have fun drawing, and that's all that ultimately matters. All right. So anyways, I'm signing off. Thanks, guys. sketchyGOichie. Live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Peace.